to that conversation, but let's shift focus now to the big policy story. And in a move that will provide some relief to companies operating in far-flung regions, the government today has decided to extend area-based tax exemptions made by more than 10 years. There were question marks, remember, over these exemptions after the rollout of the goods and services tax. What this would mean, Sapna Das joining in with more details. So Sapna, help us understand the mechanism that would be used to determine the sort of exemptions that the government will provide, which the press release says will be in place, in force till 2027. Take us through the details.
Well, this is an important decision by the cabinet, no doubt, and this gives clarity as to what the area-based tax stops have been so far. No exemption, so to speak, under the GST regime. So this entire mechanism is going to work through refunds. Of course, DIPP will be notifying the scheme shortly, so details will be available under that. The cabinet so far has given an in-principle approval, which basically indicates that all those industries which have been set up in the hilly states, Jammu and Kashmir, as well as northeast states, for the next 10 years, that is from 2017 onwards to 2027, they'll continue to get those tax stops which had been available under the erstwhile excise-free zones. The CGST component will be taken care of in terms of the refunds, but only 58%, not just of CGST, but possibly based on the value addition. So 58% of that is what is going to accrue to the industry. Over 4,000 units may benefit, but yes, in comparison to the earlier regime, the tax benefit will be lowered quite a bit, and that is something that the industry will have to deal with.
The sunset clause is extended up to 31st March 2027 और इस सनसेट क्लॉज के तहत नॉर्थ ईस्ट और हिमालयन स्टेट्स में ये लागू है, तो लगभग हर इंडस्ट्री का सनसेट पीरियड अलग अलग होगा और इसके लिए कुल मिलाकर जो यूनिट्स हैं वो है 4,284 यूनिट्स industrial establishments who will be entitled to the benefit of this. और इसमें जो budgetary provision है जो support किया जाएगा, that is to the extent of rupees 27,413 crores.
Well, finally, that clarification there coming from the government. But what would this really mean for industry? Joining us now to take this discussion forward is Prateek Jain of PwC and Suresh Rohira of Grant Thornton. Thank you very much, gentlemen, once again for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Prateek, let me start by asking you, how big a relief is this for companies? Because there are many auto companies, pharma companies who have set up their manufacturing facilities in some of these far-flung areas, so to speak. But the compensation that they will get, the excise compensation that earlier they used to get, but now under the GST regime, they'll be compensated from the 58% CGST pool. There is a question mark, what happens to the remaining 42%, which is with the states? Is that, I mean, should industry be relieved that, you have a clarification like this, or are there still some concerns that you would want the government to clarify in the coming days?
Yes, so I think industry would be happy with the fact that at least cabinet has approved. This is more of a budgetary allocation. One will have to wait for the detailed scheme by DIPP, which is expected in the next 6 weeks. Obviously, there are many concerns, and one of the things that you just pointed out, that earlier, at least in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, industry was getting complete exemption from excise duty, and that was 12.5% typically on MRP less an abatement of, let's say, 30-35% generally. Now the rate will get reduced, because what you will get 58% is only of the central GST component, and the average rate, let's say, is 18%. So 9% with the central component. Out of that, you will get 58% back. So in that sense, the benefit would be much diluted in absolute terms from what you had earlier. And the other issue is that if I'm getting the goods manufactured through third-party contract manufacturers, they might be selling something to me, let's say, at 20 rupees, whereas the MRP is 100. Now, earlier my benefit was linked with MRP, so therefore my benefit quantum was much higher. Now, since it will be on transaction value, I will get the benefit only on 20, and that also 58% of the central GST paid on 20, right? So I think industry is really, sort of concerned that how this will be computed, and we'll have to wait for the detailed guidelines to come, and also the timelines for the refund, because once you pay the tax, what will be the timelines for refund? Will you get the refund like normal refund within 9-10 days, a provisional refund, or will it take time? because it will lead to cash flow issues as well. So I think there are a lot of things which need to be looked at and clarified. And I also understand that a few states are trying to work on a refund for from their share of that 42% as well. And that's something that the government should look at, because the understanding with the industry had was that their benefit will be protected or grandfathered. And if we continue with the 58% kind of a scheme, then benefit will get diluted. So I think a lot of detailing has to happen still before the industry will get comfort on this.
That's right. Yeah, and we have to wait for 6 weeks. But Suresh, come in on that, it's a day of mixed feelings as far as industry is concerned, because interestingly what Pratik is saying, that it's not only the 58% compensation they're going to get from this CGST pool, but interestingly earlier the excise benefit they used to get was about 12.5%, but now the benefits will be calculated on a flat CGST rate of 9%. So in that sense it seems to be a double whammy. Do you feel your clients would be a little concerned about these issues today evening?
Well, a couple of quick comments. Firstly, the entire industry is waiting for a clarification or the notification of the mechanism of 58% refund. But having said that, today when we hear that the area-based exemptions are going to get extended up to 2027, clearly we'll have to see what are the specific provisions in the fine prints in terms of the extension, whether the extension is for industries who are currently operating and yet to exhaust the balance number of years, or to somebody who has just exhausted the 10th year, because earlier the benefit was only up to 10 years. Having said that, another point is in terms of the benefits. Today if you were to look at these area-based exemptions, I was not paying any excise duty on my output, and I was paying VAT, which was the state levy. But in lieu of excise duty, which was exempted, I was losing all the input tax credits. So first fundamental point is, under GST, they are wanting to do away with the exemptions, and the credit chain should continue seamlessly. So first point is, I would get all the input credits of all the purchases which I do. So to give an example, if I was purchasing goods worth 60 and selling at 100, I was not taking the credit, but going forward I would be allowed to take credit, and that's where the customers are reaching out to all the manufacturers asking them to pass on those benefits. That's one. Second is, as the ministry announced a while back, saying that 58% of the devolution of the taxes which are collected. So for example, if 18 is the GST rate, 58% of that would be available. Now the point there is whether it will be available after utilizing the credit, or it will be available flat on 18%. So those are a couple of thoughts, but overall the sense is, if the area-based exemptions are getting extended, that's a welcome move.
That's a welcome move. But as I said, more clarity awaited in 6 weeks. Pratik and Suresh, thank you very much for joining in quickly with those quick comments to make sense of the important clarification there coming in from the cabinet. Time for us to slip into a break, but when we return, no signs of dovishness from the majority of the members of the Monetary Policy Committee. A detailed report when we come back.